It's May 7, 2008, in Mumbai's Malad, a suburb where Bollywood dreams collide with hard reality. Neeraj Grover, a 26-year-old TV exec at Synergy Ad Labs, is on top of the world, helping newcomers like a friend moving into a new flat. But that night, after stepping into her apartment, Neeraj vanishes, setting off a chain of events that ends in a body hacked apart and a city in shock. Who turned this dream into a nightmare, and what drove them to such lengths? Neeraj Grover was born on February 23, 1982, in Kishni, a small town in Uttar Pradesh, India. He grew up in a middle-class family, with his father Amarnath working as a businessman and his mother Neelam as a homemaker. From a young age, Neeraj showed a keen interest in media and storytelling, which led him to pursue a degree in mass communication. By his early 20s, he had moved to Mumbai, the bustling heart of India's entertainment industry, chasing dreams of making it big in television. He landed a job at Synergy Ad Labs, a production house, where he quickly rose to become a creative executive. At 26, he was working on high-profile projects like the Indian adaptation of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And handling auditions for shows such as Mahabharat. Neeraj was known among colleagues as helpful and ambitious, always willing to lend a hand to newcomers navigating the cutthroat world of Bollywood and TV. On May 7, 2008, Neeraj went missing from his routine life in Mumbai. He had last been seen heading to help a friend with moving into a new apartment in Malad, a suburb packed with aspiring actors and industry hopefuls. His family and friends grew worried when he didn't show up for work the next day, and his phone went unanswered after over 100 calls. They filed a missing persons report at the Malad police station, describing him as last known to be with a female acquaintance. That acquaintance was Maria Monica Susiraj, a 24-year-old aspiring actress from Karnataka, who had recently shifted to Mumbai to break into films and TV. The crime scene would later be identified as her rented flat, number 201 in Daraj Solitaire, a modest apartment complex in Malad West. It was there, in that ordinary one-bedroom space, that a night of casual help turned into something far more sinister. Let's back up a bit to understand how these lives intersected. Maria had come to Mumbai full of hope, with just one Kannada film credit under her belt called Jute. She was eager but struggling. Her Hindi accent wasn't perfect, and roles were hard to come by. She met Neeraj during an audition at Synergy Ad Labs in March 2008. Though she didn't get the part, they struck up a friendship. Neeraj, ever the mentor type, offered advice on the industry, helped her with connections, and even let her crash at his place for a few days when she first arrived. By late April, they were meeting almost daily, exchanging calls and texts. Maria confided in him about her engagement to Emil Jerome Matthew, a 25-year-old lieutenant in the Indian Navy stationed in Kochi. Jerome and Maria had been together for a while, planning to get engaged formally in a couple of months. But Jerome was the jealous type, especially from afar, and Maria had mentioned to him that Neeraj seemed to have a crush on her, though she insisted it was one-sided. Fast forward to May 6, 2008. Maria had just moved into her new flat and needed help setting it up. Around 10:30 p.m., Neeraj called, offering to come over. She was tired but agreed. He arrived by 11 p.m., right as she was stepping out from a neighbor's place after a bath. Her neighbor, Mayuri, even met him briefly at the door. They settled in, chatting about her career prospects while unpacking boxes. Then, at 11:30 p.m., Maria's phone rang. It was Jerome from Kochi. He heard Neeraj's voice in the background and immediately got suspicious. "Who's that?" he demanded. Maria explained it was just a friend helping with the move. But Jerome wasn't buying it. He told her firmly not to let Neeraj stay overnight. Her phone battery died mid-conversation, so Jerome called back on Neeraj's number. The tension was palpable even over the line. Jerome asked if he should come to Mumbai. Maria brushed it off, saying Neeraj would leave after dinner. But Neeraj didn't leave. He mentioned having early work in Malad the next day and asked if he could crash on the couch. Maria, perhaps not wanting to seem rude or maybe enjoying the company, said, "Okay." They talked late into the night. Nothing out of the ordinary for two young people in the industry. Meanwhile, down in Kochi, Jerome was fuming. He couldn't shake the image of another man in his fiancée's apartment. Without telling Maria, he booked a flight to Mumbai that very night. By early morning on May 7th, he was on his way. Picture this. It's 7:30 a.m. on May 7th. Maria and Neeraj are still asleep after a late night. The doorbell rings insistently. Maria groggily opens the door, and there stands Jerome, red-eyed from the travel and boiling with rage. He pushes past her straight into the bedroom where Neeraj is waking up. Neeraj recognizes him from photos Maria had shown. Her fiancé. Words fly, accusations of betrayal, denials, shouts about trust. It escalates quickly into a physical fight. Fists connect, the two men grappling on the floor. In the chaos, Jerome storms to the kitchen, grabs a knife, and stabs Neeraj repeatedly. Blood everywhere, on the walls, the floor, the sheets. Neeraj collapses, dead on the spot from multiple wounds. Maria, according to her later confession, tried to intervene. She grabbed at the knife, cutting her own palm, but Jerome shoved her away. He threatened her, saying he'd kill her too if she didn't comply. Then, in a bizarre and chilling twist that investigators would later highlight, Jerome allegedly forced himself on Maria right there in the apartment, with Neeraj's body still warm on the floor. She claimed it was rape, under duress, knife in hand. Whether that's true or not became a point of contention, but it painted a picture of total control and panic. Now here's where the story gets even darker. Instead of calling the police or fleeing, they decide to cover it up. Around 11 a.m., Jerome sends Maria out to a nearby mall. She buys 2 large duffel bags, new curtains, bed sheets, air freshener, and, ominously, another knife. Debit card records would later confirm this shopping spree. Back at the flat, they drag Neeraj's body to the bathroom. Jerome, using his naval training perhaps for precision, starts chopping the body into pieces. Reports vary, but police estimated around 300 small parts, though the court later called that figure exaggerated by the media. Maria helped pack them into the bags, all while cleaning bloodstains from the hall. By 3 p.m., they needed a car. Maria called her friend Kiran Shreyas in Andheri West, borrowing his Hyundai Santro under the pretense of shopping. They picked it up, stopped at a petrol pump in Lokhandwala to buy 5 liters of petrol in plastic cans, and returned to load the bags. The building watchman noticed them struggling with the heavy load, but didn't think much of it. Around 4:30 p.m., Maria drove while Jerome navigated. They headed north out of Mumbai toward Manor, a forested area in Thane district about 80 km away. By 7 p.m., in a secluded spot off a dirt road near Amgaon village, they pulled over. Jerome doused the bags with petrol and set them ablaze, watching the flames consume the evidence. They drove back to Mumbai by 9:30 p.m., exhausted but composed. Back in the flat, they scrubbed away remaining stains, changed the curtains and sheets to match the new ones, and even repainted one blood-spattered wall. Jerome stayed the night, threatening Maria to keep quiet, or he'd harm her or himself. The next day, May 8th, Neeraj's absence raised alarms at work. His friends and family started calling around. One friend, Nishant, reached Maria at 10:30 p.m., and she coolly said Neeraj had left his phone with her and gone missing. She even joined them to file a police complaint at Malad station, spinning a tale that he'd left her place at midnight on May 6th for a party in Andheri. But cracks were already forming. During the drive to Manor, Maria had accidentally answered a call on Neeraj's phone, which she'd kept. She hung up quickly, but the cell tower ping placed the phone far from where she claimed to be. Police would trace that later. Plus, Jerome called Maria nearly 1,000 times between May 7 and 20. a red flag of coordination. For 10 days, Maria stuck to her story, but suspicions mounted. Grover's friends retrieved his phone from her on May 9th, noting her nervousness. On May 16th, police raided her apartment. Forensic teams found traces of blood on the door latch, and under the fresh paint, DNA matched to Neeraj. The new furnishings raised eyebrows. Why replace everything so suddenly? Maria broke under interrogation, confessing her version: the fight, the stabbing, the dismemberment. She led them to the burn site in Manor, where on May 20th to 21, charred remains were recovered. Bones, teeth, confirming it was Neeraj. Jerome was arrested in Kochi shortly after. The case exploded in the media, dubbed one of India's most macabre murders. But was this a crime of passion or something more calculated? Investigators pondered that as they built the case on circumstantial evidence, phone records, witness statements from the watchman and petrol attendant, shopping receipts, and Maria's detailed confession. The Mumbai police's crime branch took over the Neeraj Grover case with a sense of urgency. This wasn't just another missing persons report. The bloodstains in Maria Susiraj's apartment and her shaky story pointed to something gruesome. By May 21, 2008, when charred remains were recovered from the Manor forests, the case had all the makings of a media firestorm. Let's walk through how the investigation tightened the noose around Maria and Jerome, and how the courtroom drama unfolded, keeping India glued to their screens. After Maria's confession, the police pieced together a chilling timeline. They had her debit card records showing purchases of duffel bags, curtains, and a knife on May 7th, items clearly linked to the cover-up. The watchman at Diraj Solitaire confirmed seeing Maria and a man, later identified as Jerome, hauling heavy bags to a car that evening. The borrowed Hyundai Santro was traced to Kiran Shreyas, who admitted lending it to Maria without suspecting anything. At the petrol pump in Lokhandwala, an attendant recalled selling 5 liters of petrol in cans to a couple matching their description. Every detail was stacking up, but the police needed more than Maria's word to pin Jerome. Enter the forensic team. The blood traces in the apartment, though faint after the cleanup, were critical. Luminol tests revealed splatter patterns under the fresh paint on the wall, and a speck on the door latch was enough for a DNA match to Neeraj. Cell tower data was the real game changer. Neeraj's phone had pinged in Malad at 11:30 p.m. on May 6th, consistent with Maria's claim he was there. But a brief signal from Manor on May 7th, when Maria answered a call by mistake, placed her far from her stated location. Jerome's phone records were even more damning. Nearly 1,000 calls to Maria between May 7th and 20, suggesting intense coordination. Why so many calls if they weren't hiding something? The police also recovered a charred kitchen knife from the burn site, believed to be the murder weapon, though too damaged for conclusive prints. Jerome was arrested in Kochi on May 23, 2008. A naval officer with a disciplined record, he initially denied everything, claiming he was in Kochi the whole time. But flight records showed he'd traveled to Mumbai on May 7th, landing early that morning. Confronted with Maria's confession and the phone data, he cracked, admitting to the stabbing but insisting it was a moment of rage after finding Neeraj in Maria's bed. He claimed Neeraj provoked him, though he was vague on details. The dismemberment? That was Maria's idea, he said, pointing the finger back at her. Maria, meanwhile, painted herself as a victim, coerced by Jerome's threats and traumatized by the killing. The case went to trial in 2009 at the Mumbai Sessions Court, charged under the Indian Penal Code, Section 302, murder, Section 201, causing disappearance of evidence, and Section 34, common intention, for both accused. The prosecution, led by advocate Rajesh Moore, argued this was a premeditated murder. Jerome's sudden trip from Kochi, they said, showed intent. He didn't just snap, he came looking for a fight. The meticulous cover-up, from chopping the pool body to repainting the apartment, suggested a joint plan to evade justice. They leaned hard on the forensic evidence and the couple's behavior post-crime. Shopping, watching a movie, acting normal. Who does that after a killing unless they're cold-blooded? The defense, however, had a different angle. Maria's lawyer, Wahab Khan, argued she was a bystander, terrified into compliance by Jerome's threats. She didn't stab Neeraj, and her role in the cover-up was under duress. Jerome's lawyer, P.R. Vakil, leaned on Exception 4 of Section 300, culpable homicide not amounting to murder due to sudden and grave provocation. Jerome, they claimed, was blindsided by seeing his fiancée with another man, triggering an impulsive act. No prior intent, no murder. They pointed out inconsistencies in Maria's confession, suggesting police pressure, and questioned the 300 pieces claim as media hype to inflame public sentiment. The trial dragged on for 3 years, with over 50 witnesses, including the watchman, Kiran Shreyas, and forensic experts. Neeraj's family, led by his father Amarnath, attended every hearing, their grief palpable. They wanted justice, not just for the killing, but for the brutality of the aftermath. The media didn't help, turning the case into a soap opera. Headlines screamed about Maria's Bollywood ambitions and labeled her a modern Lady Macbeth. TV channels like NDTV and Times Now ran nightly segments, dissecting the alleged post-murder intimacy between Maria and Jerome, a detail Maria claimed was coerced, but which fueled public outrage. Was Maria a victim or a manipulator? Was Jerome a jealous lover or a calculating killer? These questions kept viewers hooked. As the trial neared its end in 2011, tensions were sky-high. The prosecution pushed for life sentences, arguing the dismemberment showed a depraved mind. B2, the defense countered that the cover-up, while horrific, didn't prove murder intent. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, Neeraj's family, even curious onlookers. Would the judge see this as a planned execution or a tragic impulse? The BD evidence was strong but circumstantial. No eyewitnesses, no murder weapon with clear prints. It all hinged on intent, and that's where the case got murky. The Mumbai Sessions Court was electric on June 30, 2011, as Additional Sessions Judge M.W. Babu Sapi Babu Chandwani prepared to deliver the verdict in the Neeraj Grover murder case. 3 years of hearings had built to this moment, with the prosecution and defense trading blows over every scrap of evidence. Neeraj's family sat in the front row, their faces etched with exhaustion and hope. Maria Susiraj, dressed in a simple salwar kameez, looked composed but pale, while Emil Jerome Matthew, in custody attire, stared straight ahead, his naval discipline holding firm. Outside, media vans clogged the streets, reporters whispering about possible outcomes. Would this be seen as a cold-blooded murder or a tragic mishap? The tension was thick. You could almost hear hearts pounding. Judge Chandwani began by recapping the facts, his voice steady but firm. He acknowledged the horror of the crime. A young man stabbed in a fit of rage, his body hacked apart and burned like garbage. But the key question, he said, was intent. Did Jerome plan to kill, or was it a spur-of-the-moment act? The prosecution's case for premeditation hinged on Jerome's overnight flight from Kochi. Why rush to Mumbai if not to confront and eliminate a rival? They pointed to the cover-up as proof of calculation, arguing Maria was equally complicit, luring Neeraj to her flat knowing Jerome was jealous. the judge wasn't fully convinced. He noted the lack of direct evidence for planning. No prior threats, no weapon brought along. Jerome's arrival was impulsive, triggered by that late-night phone call where he heard Neeraj's voice. The stabbing, Chandwani ruled, fit under Exception 4 of Section 300, culpable homicide not amounting to murder, due to sudden and grave provocation. Seeing another man in his fiancée's apartment, especially one she'd described as having a crush on her, pushed Jerome over the edge. It wasn't excusable, but it wasn't murder either. As for Maria, the judge found no proof she participated in the killing itself. Her role was limited to the aftermath, helping destroy evidence out of fear. The courtroom gasped as the verdicts dropped. Jerome, guilty of culpable homicide under Section 304, Part 1, sentenced to 10 years rigorous imprisonment, plus 3 years for Section 201, evidence destruction, to run concurrently. He'd already served 3 years, so 7 more to go. A fine of Rs 50,000 went to Neeraj's family. Maria, acquitted of homicide but guilty under Section 201, sentenced to 3 years, exactly the time she'd served in custody. She'd walk free that day with a matching Rs 50,000 fine. The judge condemned the dismemberment as ghastly and inhuman, but stressed it was post-crime panic, not part of the killing. Chaos erupted. Neeraj's father, Amarnath, stood up, shouting, "This is not justice! They chopped my son into pieces!" His mother wept openly, supported by relatives. Outside, protesters gathered, chanting against the lenient ruling. Media pundits dissected it live. Was Maria really innocent, or did her ambition make her the puppet master? Comparisons flew to other infamous cases, like the 1995 Naina Sani Tandoor murder, where the body was burned in a restaurant oven. Another crime of passion with a shocking disposal. Public outrage boiled over on social media and TV debates. Why only 10 years for such brutality? Many saw it as a failure of the system, where circumstantial evidence couldn't bridge the gap to murder charges. Maria was released on July 2, 2011, stepping out of Baikula Women's Jail into a frenzy of cameras. She addressed the press briefly, tears in her eyes. "I've suffered enough. I was a victim too." But the public wasn't buying it. She was branded a black widow, her acting dreams shattered by the stigma. Jerome, meanwhile, appealed from behind bars, seeking bail. But the Bombay High Court denied it in December 2011, citing the gravity of the offense. Neeraj's family filed their own appeal, arguing Maria was the instigator. She invited Neeraj over, knowing Jerome's jealousy, and actively participated in the cover-up. They wanted her recharged with murder. The appeals dragged into 2012, keeping the case alive. In a twist, Maria was arrested again that year in Vadodara for a Hajj pilgrimage scam, accused of cheating pilgrims out of money. She got bail quickly, but it added to her notoriety. Jerome served his time quietly, released around 2015 after good behavior credits. By then, the appeals had fizzled. The High Court upheld the original verdict, finding no grounds to escalate charges. Justice, it seemed, was final, if unsatisfying. But the story didn't end with the gavel. The Neeraj Grover case became a cultural touchstone in India, inspiring TV episodes on shows like Crime Patrol in 2013, where actors reenacted the drama with eerie accuracy. Documentaries popped up, probing the psychology. What drives someone to dismember a body? Experts pointed to panic and survival instinct, amplified by Jerome's military mindset, trained to handle crises methodically. Maria's role sparked feminist debates. Was she vilified because of gender biases, portrayed as a seductress in a male-dominated industry? Or did her actions warrant the hate? Neeraj's family found some solace in memorials and advocacy. They pushed for stricter laws on evidence tampering, arguing the dismemberment should carry heavier penalties. Amarnath spoke in interviews about his son's kindness, how Neeraj helped so many without expecting anything. He was full of life, he'd say, voice cracking. This case shows how jealousy can destroy everything. Maria faded from the spotlight, reportedly moving back to Karnataka, her Bollywood aspirations in ruins. Jerome returned to civilian life, keeping a low profile. Rumors said he remarried, but nothing confirmed. Years later, in 2025, the case still lingers in true crime circles. Podcasts revisit it, asking, could modern forensics, like advanced DNA or AI-tracked phone data, have changed the outcome? It's a reminder of Mumbai's underbelly, the glamour of Bollywood masking raw human frailties. Ambition draws people in, but one wrong turn, one jealous call, and lives shatter. Neeraj Grover's story isn't just about murder. It's about trust betrayed, impulses unchecked, and the long shadow of regret. As we wrap this up, think about it. Have you ever let suspicion cloud your judgment? What might have happened if Jerome had just talked it out? The Neeraj Grover case forces us to confront those questions, a chilling tale from the city of dreams that turned nightmare.